But in a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
because I have said that.
All right, thank you for staying. Let's begin with Daily Trust newspaper this morning. And the lead story there, quite an interesting one, more of a business story. CBN ends forex sales to banks. The writer says targets $200 billion from non-oil export proceeds. And you also have Naira for dollar policy, rakes in $100 million weekly. You also see new move will make banks, entrepreneurs, responsive experts. So look forward to the implication of that. If you pick a copy of the paper on page 5, you find all the details. And then at the top, above the lead story, APC Reconciliation Committee fails to submit report 15 days to convention. And then you see bandits kill Muazzin calling prayer in Zamfara. And then you see insurgency. Yobe needs over 25 billion naira to revitalize education. That's according to Governor Mimala Buni. And then below the pictorial there, what you see is the story that talks about adulterated fuel. Buhari wants suppliers held accountable. And the pictorial actually shows you Chairman, Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, is inspecting the distribution of sensitive materials for the FCT Area Council elections, which is slated for Saturday, tomorrow. Also, at the very bottom, the other stories there, court dissolves marriage as wife claims hubby divorced her via phone. Wow. How so simplistic, Other stories there, 2023 South not against North, Afenifere replies Northern elders. You see robbers attack bullion van, kill 2 cops and 2 civilians in Ibadan. These are the stories on the front page of Daily Trust newspapers.
All right, we'll move on to Nigerian Tribune newspaper next. And we have the lead story that says suppliers of adulterated fuel must face the law. This is attributed to the President, Buhari. And some writers here that say NNPC names defaulting importers. IPMAN directs members to compile inventory of affected customers. Reps call for probe of NNPC, Sun, others. Fuel scarcity, NATO threatens to withdraw services. And details of that particular story can be found on page 6 and 7. I can't wait to see what compensation, they get to give the affected customers. All right, at the top there, we have a power must shift to the South in 2023. Ethnic nationalities insist. And a few writers that say Afenifere backs Akeredolu say South not against the North. North will field candidate, your threat can't walk, CNJ tells Akeredolu. CBN to stop sale of forex to banks in 2022 says Nigeria to earn $200 billion in forex repatriation from non-oil exports. If you come down right at the, you see a pictorial there, a pictorial of 2 policemen, 2 civilians killed as robbers attack bullion van in Ibadan. Beside them, we also have a story that says 18 Zamfara Assembly members vote for removal of deputy governor. We also have Boko Haram insurgency will end by 2023. That's attributed to Borno governor. Military gunships kill 37 bandits in Niger. 1 soldier dies in Kaduna. We also have don't interfere with Nigerian politics. Buhari wants diplomats. And then Kwara explains takeover of Shonga farm by Amcon. And details of that story can be found on page 25. These are some of the top stories from the Tribune, Nigerian Tribune.
All right, let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. Here, The story is about toxic petrol firms, NNPC in row as Buhari orders sanctions. You'd also find at the top there, Boko Haram's end is near, says Zulum. And you find federal lawmakers angry over flight delays. And then other stories there, 18 Zamfara lawmakers vote for Deputy Governor sack. You'd see also NIA faults ex-AGF's claims on sacked acting DG. So these are some of the stories on the front page of The Nation this morning.
All right, so moving on to the Punch newspaper. The lead story has to do with the robbery that happened in Oyo State. Oyo Bullion van robbers, Enugu gunmen kill 5 policemen, others, and writers that say Ibadan motorcyclists killed, commuters shot, hoodlums caught away cash, and motorists flee. 3 policemen manning Enugu checkpoint killed, POS man shot, and a woman abducted. That's really a sad one. And we also have right above it, beside the nameplate that says, NNPC may spend 201 billion naira to clean 170.25 million liters of dirty fuel. Okay, we also have petrol transporters gradually halt operations over low freight rates. Details of that on page 22. Rep squeeze finance ministry for 17 billion naira unapproved spending. Details of that story on page 23. An electoral bill, Assembly carpets Malami over self-interest comment. And you can find details of that story on page 4. If you come down to the bottom, there's a story here that says NDLEA seizes 2 billion naira drug in containers from India at Lagos port. Details of that story on page 5. These are some of the stories on the front page of the Punch newspaper.
All right, The Guardian is next, and here we have the lead story that talks about importers of dirty fuel must be held accountable, Buhari vows. It has the riders that says, stop your comedy of anger, buck passing, PDP replies Buhari. Reps probes NNPC, SON, others over sale of bad fuel. You'd see also Mrs. Enadep deny involvement in adulterated fuel supply. NATO threatens strike, insists on rate review. So below the nameplate there, you'd see also tension in Ibadan as robbers attack bullion vans, kill police officers and student. Don't meddle in 2023 election, Buhari tells diplomat. Why APC, PDP may end up with misfits as presidential aspirants. CBN to end FX supply to banks, targets $200 billion from non-oil exports. And then the picture shows you Burkina Faso, the sports. I believe that has to do with the recently held African Cup of Nations. And these are basically the major stories on the front page of The Guardian newspaper.
All right, and finally on Business Day, we'll just take the lead story that has to do with NNPC marketers trading blames over dirty petrol. And the writer says, greed, profiteering fingered. And also what Abuja Council election means for APC and PDP. These are some of the stories that we will be discussing today on the newspaper review.
All right, now let's get perspectives on some of these stories. We have Nuruddin Abdallah, editor 21st Century Chronicle, in the studio to give us perspectives. Good morning. Welcome to Daybreak.
Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Well, quite a lot of interesting stories, really. If you take a look at, say, for instance, the Daily Trust newspaper leads with the story that talks about CBN's plan to end forex sale for banks. I mean, what are the likely implications of this? Experts seem to be welcoming this idea.
Yes, like most of the experts said since the CBN announced this yesterday, it's a very good development if it is diligently implemented, because making a policy is one thing and ensuring that it is implemented fully is another. And like what many of the experts said, CBN has been funding farmers in the last 6 years. If you take the anchor borrowers, for instance, the CBN has expended more than 900 billion on 21 commodities in the last 6 years. You have rice, you have palm, you have sesame, you have cocoa, you have maize, and what have you. But that is at the production level, not the value chain level. So the policy unveiled by this CBN yesterday entails stopping banks and giving forex to banks, so that banks will now generate their own forex by funding local entrepreneurs and so on. Now, what CBN is simply saying is this: in the next 10 years, for instance, if Mr. Ayuba wants to establish, let's say, a cashew processing company, already farmers are getting money to cultivate cashew. When you are establishing a factory that will process this cashew for export, then the banks need to give you forex. You will create jobs and you will generate revenue when exporting. The governor mentioned, we export so much commodities. Take cocoa, for instance. Cocoa and chocolate is about $130 billion in business across the world. Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, and Ghana produce more than 70% of the raw materials. Yes, how much is it compared to how much do you buy chocolate in the supermarkets and what have you? We don't add value to it, so Nigeria is losing, the farmers are losing. But most of the raw material we export are raw materials, so we get less value for it. What this scheme means is, now, if you want to establish a factory, you can get, there is a sort of an intervention at 5% from the CBN instead of the 9%. And this will continue in the last 10 years. So now, instead of banks, now we are housing this forex. People are using the forex just for leisure, for medical tourism, for education. Now they want it for real investment that will add value to what we produce. When exporting, we get value for it.
And I mean, in terms of promoting export, it appears that this is something that will promote exporting to other countries.
Yeah, sure. We take cocoa, for instance. We export the raw cocoa. Why can't you turn it into chocolate, beverages, and what have you? Take cassava, for instance. You buy, how much is a bottle of starch now? Almost 2,000 plus.
Are we likely to see, a decrease in the cost of the dollar as a result of this?
Yes, because you will generate it yourself. And Mikey, when you have this, there will be now inflow, foreign direct investment. Take Kaduna, for instance, now. Olam is there. Some foreigners brought their money and they set up a milk industry. They rear the cows. You understand? They do the milk, they package it. They sell locally and they export. There is a tomato paste industry as well. Go there during the peak of the harvest. The tomato is, the basket where the tomato is put, has more value than the content. A month later, That'll be different because the farmers don't have the capacity to preserve. But now they are converting it into a pest instead of importing because what we do now is most of the companies now, Ericsson and whatever, they import the consolidated paste and they can it here. But now we'll do it here and sell it locally as well as export and earn the dollar.
And but that, I mean, creating jobs in the process.
That is it.
Well, is this part of CBN's plan to drive the $200 billion non-oil revenue?
I think that is it because there are four sources of forex, oil, the crude we sell, the non-oil export, foreign direct investment, and the diaspora remittances. They have, based on what the governor said, they have now extended the naira for dollar policy ad infinitum. And he said that in less than 1 year, in less than a month, they got about $100 million. Whatever dollar, if for instance, Mr. Ayuba lives or works in the RST or whatever, if you wrote your dollar back home through the official channel, you get 5 naira per dollar addition. So it works. You understand? So we believe that what we are just, our concern now is, we are in an election year. Policy consistency. If they will diligently pursue this. And we believe that with the achievements so far recorded in terms of the other like of it, take the ABP for instance, the Anchor borrowers, something, now you are now dealing with the processing aspect. You understand? Farmers will now have more value for what they produce. We are not going to repeat what we did recently, in Benue, with Nigeria celebrated exporting raw yams to the United States. It was a disaster. You should export starch for broken industry, for pharmaceutical industries and whatever, but not a raw yam. You understand?
Well, we'll continue to keep tab on this to see how it's. It's the issue has always been about implementation of policies.
Yeah.
We have beautiful, ideas, and policies, but when it comes to implementation, sometimes you find that there's some kind of stall there. But we'll continue to keep tabs on this. Other stories on the front page of Daily Trust. The APC Reconciliation Committee is, reported to have failed to submit its report 15 days to the convention, which implies that, this 26th of February date, for the convention, is it feasible in your opinion?
Yes, notwithstanding the report as far as the convention is concerned is not that significant because before the governors meeting where this convention that was agreed upon, the Abdullahi Adamu committee wanted an extension. If you give the committee extension up to December, they will not solve the problem in the APC. That's the reality. And I believe that the Buni-led Convention and Planning Committee knows this clearly. APC is a ruling party. They have been there for in the last 7 years. The principal, the dramatic person there, Buhari, is leaving by next year. He is the one that's the force that holds the party together. So now they are all manner of interest, are scrambling to see what they can get before the big masquerade exit the stage. So if you give Abdullah Adamu committee up to December, they will not be able to resolve all the problems. How can you resolve the problem in Kwara? How can you resolve the problem in Ocean? Even Kano.
Do you think the internal wrangling in the APC, nationally, is actually responsible for what's happening in the states?
Not if you look something like that. Unfortunately, APC, they have this tendency of allowing a small problem to fester and to snowball into something big. The issue of Kano should have been resolved at the beginning. Yeah, there is squabbles here and there before the congresses, the local government congresses. If, for instance, now the party leader is the president, if he invites all the rival groups round table, whatever decision reached, it will be binding. But he sees it coming. He feels aloof. He believes that they should do whatever they do. And until the thing reaches certain stage, same thing. Let's take Oshim, for instance. The very day the Oyetola faction chairman was inaugurated in Abuja, the party, the campaign headquarters of the Minister of Interior was attacked and vandalized. Look at what is happening in Kwara. The party structure now, based on what happened last week, has been handed over to Governor Abdul Razak. Lai Mohammed, Minister of Information and Communication, is a great air minister. He has been in this system for a very long time. The governor is a new entrant. So that is the problem. Go to Ogun. What of Gombe? So the problem with Buhari or the APC is they look at a small problem, they will believe, they will claim ignorance that it doesn't happen. They will feign ignorance. Until the thing snowballs, look at what is happening in Kano. The matter should have been resolved long ago. Call Ganduje. I don't even know to even belabor this. What happened in Zamfara?
All right, now let's take a look at other stories. One other story that got my attention and got me curious is the one about court dissolving, a marriage based on the fact that the wife claims that her husband decided to divorce her via phone. I mean, when you hear that, what's the first thing that comes to mind about where we place or the value we place on, marriages these days?
It's unfortunate, actually. From the Islamic point of view, I'm not an Islamic scholar, but there are so many interpretations. That yes, you can call your wife on phone and say that you have divorced her. But what we know is this. And this interpretation, this interpretation, is leading to the horrible divorce we have, particularly in the northern part of the country, particularly among a particular ethnic group where I come from, the Hausas. But principally, in that interpretation, many people believe is wrong. When you want to get married, your representative must meet the representative of the bride to be. It's a minimum of two, we call it wali. That is when the agreement will be made. And that's where the marriage will take place. So, some scholars are saying that even in the case of divorce, this same route must be followed. You have to bring your wali. You bring your wali. Say, okay, uncle or daddy, please, I want you to come. I want to divorce my wife. And her wali will come too. So, they make it, there is a hadith saying that divorce is valid religiously, but God is angry with whoever does it, because so many things are involved. And look at the age of the woman. You marry someone at the age of 18, 20, 10 years, 15 years later, you just call her on phone and say that you're divorced without any alimony. Look at that.
It sounds so simple, like it's so
Yes.
easy, like there are no implications. I mean,
yes, because we are selfish. That woman, maybe even though she's educated, you have locked her in the house, manufacture kit for you. Only after 15, 20 years, you will just say Bana Santa. And it stands. And without any financial implication. You have wasted her time, disfigure her, and send her away. To where?
Could it be why some are, advocating for, alongside the religious wedding, maybe there should be some court weddings as well, so that the woman is protected in instances like this?
We allow culture to, and because all the people that take decisions are men. So women are grossly underrepresented. Go and see what is happening in the Arab nations, Arab countries. Saudi Arabia, for instance, you can't do that in Saudi Arabia because they're talking about Islam. You can't do that in Egypt. You can't do that in Tunisia. You can't do that in Iran. But because in the last couple of months, what is the trend in social media, particularly from the northwest and northeastern part of the country? Cancel Lepe. Lepe are those boxes, broadcasts that you do on the eve of wedding. But the men are so lazy, and some of the scholars are even advocating for that it is because of Lepe that some youngsters don't want to get married. But they are advocating for the cancellation of Lepe without advocating for the cancellation of Kayan Daki. Where I come from, if you are getting married, if you have a daughter that you want to give out, it's a huge responsibility. You have to buy the beds, the beddings. You have to buy the seat. You have to furnish the sitting rooms. You have to furnish the kitchen. Send even food. And all this means money. But the few boxes that the guy will bring, now they're saying that it should be cancelled. Whereas they are not advocating for the cancellation of the kind of...
In any case, I thought that the whole rationale behind it is that if by chance, if any day comes and the man says, look, I'm no longer interested in this marriage, because of all the things that the woman brought, she's entitled to take in all of her belongings, even though, like in this case, in the case of this story, the woman is going to be returning the bride price, paid by the man. But again, can we totally really separate these things after spending years?
No, in the case of after, it has to do with who is what are his she can't return his bride price if she's the one initiating this. The woman is the loser. Maybe after 15 years of marriage or 20 years with 10 kids, all her figure has changed dramatically. Now you are sending her out to wear.
Can she recover from that one?
The thing is, right, a lot of us actually seem to believe that, once the bride returns the bride price, it is automatically an annulment of the wedding or of the marriage.
The court is actually saying that the wife should return the bride price.
Why? After how many years? Religiously, let me just say from the Islamic point of view, even though I'm not a cleric, if for instance that there is a wedding and the woman just feel that she is no longer interested in this wedding, in the marriage, for instance, for no germane reason. There are germane reasons where divorce becomes inevitable, you understand? But if those reasons are not there, she just psychologically feel that she doesn't like the wedding for some reason, then it is that she will return
the bride price.
The bride price. Or some will even say, okay, you are a graduate, you have a master's, you are a working woman, okay, give him money that he can marry someone like you. You understand? It is in that case, but not after children, you cohabit with her, you consummate the marriage.
And many years down the line.
If you go to even local...
Yes, the cases of divorce appears to be becoming more rampant. Are you worried about this trend, and what are the things that young people should know before even getting married?
The problem is becoming rampant, actually. Marriage today, a week, 2 weeks later, divorce. Go to Kano, for instance. Go to the major northern cities. Because we look at marriage from a very, very different perspective. Just from that, how can I put it, the lost perspective. Not with the responsibility as well. That's why we marry as many as possible. Again, when we are getting married, unlike, for instance, some in churches, You go for even pre-wedding counseling. There is nothing like that in the far north. Understand? And the way we even look at marriage, you have 2 daughters or 3 daughters, for instance. Your neighbor's daughter got married, so it becomes incumbent on you to get married by hook or by crook.
The pressure.
So the pressure is there. You understand?
Societal pressure.
Societal pressure, whether you have the right person or not.
Whether you
Again,
are ready for it or not.
It's cheap. I can sack my wife today. 2 days after, another one will come in. That's it. Unlike some other ethnic groups, like the Yorubas, for instance. What do I need? Is that levy that we are even trying to abolish. Just rent a room. I can only paint it. She'll come and furnish it. That is it. How much is the dowry they are talking about? Go to even the Anura and whatever. The highest you have is 100,000, 200,000. And the dowry is religiously is the gift to the wife. You make it 20,000. I even do 20,000. Like all the sadak, the minimum of sadak is no more than 25,000. So in Abuja here, they are still doing wedding of with 25,000 naira dowry and the likes.
You actually have some traditions that, you know, even when you give the expected amount, for example, they call 10,000 and 10 naira, they collect the 10 naira to keep something and then return the 10,000 to you.
No, so, you know, in wrapping this up, you know, this whole conversation, I don't know how we got here, but I mean, this is quite interesting. Would you say that culture has helped, you know, helped us in, you know, keeping marriages and, you know, making us to value marriages more or otherwise?
Otherwise, because we value marriages more, there won't be this skyrocketing indices of divorce, particularly from the northwestern part of the country. That is one. And secondly, like I said, the marriage is cheap. Thirdly, there is no consequence. Like this guy.
But some of the older generation, if you look at their marriages, it lasts, you know, for decades, and some of them are very comfortable, you know, with the way that, you know, they and from what we heard, some of them didn't actually even make the choice of choosing their life partners. Some of them were, you know, matched together, you know, were just brought together by their parents and all of that. Yet they stick together. So what is wrong with us?
Yes. Do you know why that happened? In those days, our mothers, our grandmothers were married even before.
At a very young age.
11, 12, 13 maximum. Now my daughter will get married after when she gets to university. She has to get university education. So you can decide for someone at the age of 8, 9 in those days, with little exposure to Western education. You can't do that now with an undergrad or someone who has been in completed secondary school. So that's the difference.
So is that the price? Is that the price to pay now for?
Have changed, you know.
Yes.
People.
So is that the price to pay now for more education, more exposure, and all of that?
The issue is simple now. In those days, they tolerated, most of them were forced marriages. But now with the level of education of women, girl child education, for instance, that thing is not possible. At age of 10, a girl will have choices. She'll be telling you, look at this Hanifa. You look at her footages. At age of 5, she was even saying she wanted to be she wanted to be this, she wanted to be this, she wanted to be this. You understand? So unfortunately now, we are trying to use 1960 approach to 2020 women. That is, which is not possible.
All right, just before we go, just to share your thoughts quickly in 1 minute on the Oyo Bullion van robbery in broad daylight.
That's not the first time. Recently in Delta, there was some incident. Even in Oyo in 2008, there was something is wrong somewhere. Even the last one, they did not succeed in taking away the money, but they gunned down security and even passers-by. All these robberies take place because there are insiders. That was it.
Informants.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. We have to end the discussion here because of time. We appreciate your coming on Daybreak.
Thank you very much.
We've been speaking with Nuruddin Abdallah, editor, 21st Century Chronicle, and he's been the one giving us his perspectives on the stories on our front pages. For now, we'll take a short break, and then when we come back, we'll begin to take a look at other discussions.
But in a situation where you find that a person look at the same
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
Because I have said that